Chapter 2614 Ambushing the Ancestor of Technique. There was actually a middle-grade divine artifact here. A middle-grade divine weapon was equivalent to an expert at the True God realm. Only an expert at the True God realm could unleash the full power of a middle-grade divine weapon. Lu Ming's eyes burned even more fervently. He kept the long staff and sped up to read it. Level 3 middle-grade God equipment, Level 2 middle-grade God equipment. A moment later, Lu Ming put away all the weapons. There were a total of 33 divine artifacts. All of them were level 7 low-grade God equipment and above. Any one of them was better than the meteor spear that he was using now. And NBSP among them, there were 20 low-quality divine artifacts. There were a total of 13 middle-grade divine artifacts. There were even 2 God tools in there. The highest level was a level 7 middle-grade God tool. One was a battle sword, and the other was a battle saber. How many God crystals could a middle-grade level 7 God equipment be sold for? Lu Ming could not estimate the value of a divine weapon of this level. Even forces like the Righteous Army, the Origin Hall, and the Walkabout sect could not produce one. It was too precious. Lu Ming had no idea how many divine crystals the 33 divine artifacts were worth. In short, he knew that he had struck it rich. From now on, he wouldn't have to worry about resources. His disciples, family, friends, and the people of the Dragon Alliance wouldn't have to worry about resources either. Meteor spear, you can change it. Lu Ming was all smiles. Among the 33 divine artifacts, there were a few spears. The highest grade one was a middle grade rank 4 God artifact. And NBSP in addition, he had a level 8 low quality God artifact and a level 9 low quality God artifact. Lu Ming picked up a level 9 low-grade divine artifact and waved it a few times. It felt pretty good. After looting all the divine artifacts, Lu Ming wandered around for a while. He left only after he was sure that there were no more treasures. I can't go in with my cultivation. I can go back. Lu Ming was satisfied. After that, he would go through the cave and return to the hurricane tunnel. Then, he followed the original path and climbed the rock back. Going back was going against the wind, and it was very difficult. However, Lu Ming had already killed all the lion-headed eagle beasts in the Hurricane Pares Sage. There were no lion-headed eagle beasts to stop him on his way back. Moreover, Lu Ming's cultivation level had increased by a notch, so he was still very fast. Even if it was against the wind, it was still many times faster than when they came. After Lu Ming had crawled back for a while, the people from the free and unfettered sect of the Yuanluo Palace finally opened the formation of the Pares Sage. They rushed through the Pares Sage. At the end of the Pa South Sage was the place where Lu Ming had obtained a large number of divine artifacts. Then, the palace master, Situ Haonan, and the others realized that the place was still empty. Other than some stone chairs and tables, there was nothing else. What's going on? The Yuanluo Palace master bellowed. He could no longer control his temper. After all his hard work, he found that there was nothing here. If he knew that Lu Ming had already arrived here, he would probably vomit blood in anger. Everyone's face was extremely unsightly. Then, when they found the hurricane tunnel, their faces became even more unsightly. The Hurricane Pares Sage here was a combination of several Pares Sages, and its power was astonishing. Even the Yuanluo Palace Master was a little afraid of it. This should be a barrier set up by the Master of the Cave. Could it be that the real inner cave is in the depths of these Hurricane Pares Sages? They guessed. However, they were hesitant. Usually, such a place would definitely be accompanied by danger. Let's observe for a few days before making a decision. The Yuanluo Palace Master said. In the sky above the Zhengtian Army headquarters on Zhengtian Planet, the ancestor of technique and Fu Hang had been playing this game of chess for more than 2 years. And now, it was already the final moment. Break! The ancestor of technique waved his hand and a huge chess piece was formed. He then placed it on the chessboard. Fu Heng's expression changed. He waved his hand, and a powerful force rushed toward the ancestor of technique, preventing him from placing the chess piece. Boom! Boom! The two of them continued to attack each other. In the past 2 years, the two of them had already gone through this kind of confrontation countless times. After a dozen moves, boom! In the end, the ancestor of technique's chess piece still landed on the chessboard. You've lost. The ancestor of technique looked at Fu Heng. Brother Fa is indeed talented. I am impressed. The game is over, and I have fulfilled my promise. Brother Fa, please don't blame me. I'm leaving. With a wave of his sleeve, Fu Heng soared into the sky. Then, an interplanetary warship appeared. He boarded the warship and left the true sky star, Northern Shang planet. The moment Fu Heng left, the ancestor of technique immediately went to the teleportation formation and headed to the Northern Shang planet. After arriving at Seven Star Island, he immediately rushed to the ancient gold mine and met up with the righteous army 100,000 miles away from the ancient gold island. The general is here. General! The people of the righteous army immediately saluted the ancestor of technique. What's the situation at the Yuan Luo Palace in the past 2 years? The ancestor of technique asked. General, for the past 2 years, the palace master of the Yuan Luo Palace, the sect master of the Xiaoyao sect, and the others have all been in the cave abodes of the experts. They have never come out. Someone reported. That old fox Situ Haonan is here too. The ancestor of technique's eyes flashed with a sharp glint as he ordered. You guys wait for me here, I'll go check it out myself. With that, the ancestor of technique turned into a beam of light and rushed toward the old gold mine. It's the Righteous Heaven Army's General Fa Ming. Quickly informed the Hall Master and the others. The moment the ancestor of technique arrived, the people from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Carefree sect immediately noticed him. Under the leadership of a few true God stage experts, they were on high alert and sent the news to the Yuan Luo Palace Master and the others. Both Yuan Luo Palace Master and Situ Haonan received the news at the same time. Fa Ming actually dared to come alone. Fine, I'll make him stay today. Yuan Luo Palace Master's eyes glinted with a cold light. After spending a few years without getting anything in return, he was filled with anger. That's good. Well, get rid of Fa Ming and split the righteous army's territory equally. Situ Haonan also said coldly. Elder Mo, you should hide in the dark first. Fa Ming might think that you're still guarding the headquarters. Later on, when Brother Situ and I fight with Fa Ming, you'll secretly attack and ambush him. The Hall Master of the Yuan Luo Hall ordered. The Yuan Luo Palace Master was rather wary of the ancestor of technique. He and Mo Ken were both at the 4th stage of True God Realm, while the ancestor of technique was only at the 3rd stage of True God Realm. However, the ancestor of technique's combat power was extremely strong. With his power alone, he could fight with the two of them. Even with the help of Situ Haonan, they were not confident that they could stop the ancestor of technique if they were to fight him head-on. They could not stop him if he wanted to leave. Only a sneak attack could possibly stop the ancestor of technique. Don't worry. The Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect is also hiding near the Chenjin mine. He can also launch a sneak attack when the time comes. We'll definitely make Fa Ming stay here today. Situ Haonan said coldly. The Yuan Luo Palace Master's heart trembled as he thought, Old fox. This Situ Haonan must have asked a Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect to hide in the dark to guard against the Yuan Luo Palace. Alright, then today, I'll make sure that Fa Ming won't be able to return. The Yuan Luo Palace Master said coldly as they headed out. Chapter 2615 True God Battle Outside the Cave. The ancestor of technique stood in the void, exuding a vast divine might. Set up the formation. The Yuan Luo and free and unfettered sect experts who were guarding outside the cave had extremely grave expressions on their faces. One by one, they retreated and set up a great formation, waiting for the attack. The ancestor of technique's name was too great. A person who came out of a small kiliacosm under the jurisdiction of the Yuan Luo Palace broke free from the restraints of the Yuan Luo Palace and rose against the heavens. He created the righteous army to fight against the Yuan Luo Palace. More importantly, the ancestor of technique's combat strength was extremely powerful. He had fought against 2 experts from the Yuan Luo Palace alone and established a great reputation. Even though there was a 3rd stage true god from the Yuan Luo Palace who had the same cultivation as the ancestor of technique, his face was pale and his heart was filled with fear. He had once seen the ancestor of technique kill a stage 3 true god expert with a single move. He didn't have the slightest bit of courage to face the ancestor of technique. Kong Ji, get out here! The ancestor of technique shouted coldly. His voice was so loud that many people with weak cultivation had to step back. Fa Ming, do you only know how to act so arrogantly in front of my subordinates? The voice of the palace master of the Yuanluo Palace, Kong Ji, could be heard from within the cave. Then with a flash, more than 10 figures rushed out of the cave abode. It was Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and the others. Of course, the Grand Elder of the Yuanluo Palace, Missouri Kan, did not appear. Kong Ji's eyes swept around and found that only Fa Ming was there. The cold light in his eyes became even thicker. Kong Ji, Chen Jin Dao, originally belonged to my righteous army. Now you can get lost. The ancestor of technique said. Ha ha ha, laughable, truly laughable. Kong Ji laughed and looked at the ancestor of technique with a mocking expression. Fa Ming, you're really naive. You've been in the chaotic astral river for so many years, yet you still don't understand one thing. In the chaotic astral river, whoever is stronger will be able to occupy more and more territory. From now on, this island, no, the entire northern Shang planet will belong to my Yuanluo Palace and the free and unfettered sect. Do you understand? Since that's the case, let's use our strength to speak. The ancestor of technique was very direct. He stepped out, and his vast divine power burst out like a tide. Boom! The ancestor of technique's palm pressed down. His divine power boiled and a huge palm print smashed down towards Kong Ji. Kong Ji didn't dare to be careless. His 4th-level true god realm divine power completely erupted. In his hand, a battle blade appeared. A blade light soared into the sky and slashed towards the technique ancestor's palm print. Boom! And NBSP energy shot into the sky as divine power clashed, creating shockwaves that scattered in all directions. Not good, block it. The true god realm experts from the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect all laid down layers of defense in front of them to block the shockwaves, but they were still pushed back by the shockwaves. Some of the weaker ones spat out blood and their faces turned pale. If there were true god experts to defend, those with weaker cultivation would have been killed by the shockwaves. There was a huge difference between the void god realm and the true god realm. At the same time, the blade light and the palm print dissipated. A figure continuously retreated, and the person who retreated was Kong Ji. His cultivation was clearly at the 4th stage of true god realm, 1 stage higher than the ancestor of technique. However, in a head-on battle, he was at a disadvantage. Kong Ji, your battle strength is not good enough, the ancestor of technique said coldly. He activated his divine power and struck out with his palm again. Sunblade technique. And NBSP kill. Kong Ji shouted, and his middle-grade level 4 god artifact battle saber emitted a dazzling saber light that was as dazzling as the sun. Then, he struck out with his saber. The scorching saber light slashed at the ancestor of technique's palm print. Kong Ji displayed his godly skill. Fa Ming, take this. The leader of the free and unfettered sect, Situ Haonan, also made his move. His body moved like a flickering light and a sing shadow. He was extremely fast as he rushed towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, a soft sword appeared in his hand. The sword light was like a poisonous snake as it stabbed towards the vital parts of the ancestor of technique. This was also a terrifying divine skill. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan both used their godly skills. The ancestor of technique's face finally revealed a trace of seriousness. In his hand, a combat sword also appeared. The blade of the sword was a full 2 meters long. Buzz! The ancestor of technique slashed out with his sword, and the sword light broke through the air and flashed. Boom! Boom! With 2 violent explosions, the ancestor of technique blocked Kong Ji and Situ Haonan's attacks. Fa Ming, since you dared to come here alone today, you can stay here forever. Kong Ji continuously used his Shen power and used his Shen technique to the extreme. The power was extremely terrifying as he attacked. At the same time, Situ Haonan's body flickered and moved around at an extremely fast speed, taking the opportunity to attack the ancestor of technique's weakness. With the 2 of them working together, their power increased sharply. The ancestor of technique focused his attention and fought 1 against 2, and it was difficult to tell who was winning. The 3 of them fought on the sea, creating huge waves, and then fought in the sky. In the blink of an eye, the 3 of them had exchanged hundreds of moves, and it was difficult to determine the winner. At this time, the 3 of them were fighting on the sea again. Whoosh! Suddenly, the surface of the sea churned, and a terrifying destructive light burst out from the sea and attacked the ancestor of technique. Mo Kan! The ancestor of technique shouted angrily. Haha, Fa Ming die! Kong Ji laughed and launched a violent attack. Situ Haonan also burst out with full power attacks, coordinating with Mo Kan's sneak attack. Just as the ancestor of technique was about to be hit, suddenly, the sword light on his body expanded and shot out in all directions. Boom! 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 Kong Ji, Situ Haonan, and Mo Kan's attacks were all blocked by the sword light that filled the sky. Baz! Whoa! Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and Mo Kan retreated quickly. They stood in the air and looked at the ancestor of technique in shock. FMing, you've reached the 3rd level of your divine skill? Kong Ji roared in shock. A divine skill was naturally an attack of the martial god realm. It could exert the power of divine power to the extreme and burst out with terrifying power. It had the same meaning as martial skills. According to the different power and the different degree of profoundness, divine skills were also divided into different levels. However, the division of Shen skills was completely related to the level of mystery. For example, a divine skill only had one level. Even if it was cultivated to the peak, there would only be one level, and that would be a divine skill of the 1st level. Some divine skills, when cultivated to the peak, had 2 levels, and that would be 2 divine skills. 2 divine skills were naturally more powerful and terrifying than 1. Some divine skills, when cultivated to the peak, would have 3 levels and would become 3 levels of divine skills. The more levels a divine skill had, the greater its potential and the higher its value. Of course, the cultivation of a Shen technique is very profound and complicated. Even if you have it, you might not be able to cultivate it to the highest level. For example, if a person's talent was limited and he had a triple-layer divine skill, but could only cultivate it to the 1st layer, then the power would be no different from that of a 1st-layer divine skill. The more profound it was, the more levels it would have. There were 4th, 5th, 6th, and even 9th and 10th levels. The minimum requirement to cultivate a divine skill was to be at peak void god level, because it consumed a lot of divine power to use divine level. Without great divine power, it could not be sustained at all. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan both have a triple-stage spirit technique, but they've only cultivated it to the 2nd stage. The ancestor of technique also had a triple divine skill, but he had already cultivated it to the 3rd level. Chapter 2616 Unexpected Calamity. One had to know that the ancestor of technique was only at stage 3 true god realm, but he had already cultivated a divine technique to stage 3. This kind of comprehension ability was simply terrifying. He must be eliminated. Kong Ji roared in his heart. The ancestor of technique was so terrifying. If he were to break through to the 4th level of the true god stage, how terrible would that be? So what if you've cultivated your divine skill to the 3rd level? You'll still die today. Kong Ji roared and charged towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, Situ Haonan and Mo Kan also charged towards the ancestor of technique. Each of them unleashed their divine skills to their maximum potential. Sword-breaking art. The ancestor of technique's sword stabbed out continuously. There were more than 10 sword lights that stabbed towards Kong Ji, Situ Haonan, and Mo Kan. This was the technique ancestor's divine technique. It had already been cultivated to the 3rd level, and its power was extremely strong. It continuously collided with the attacks of Kong Ji and the others. In the air, the ancestor of technique was forced to retreat. However, he still managed to block the attacks from Kong Ji and the others. He was only at a slight disadvantage. Kill! Kong Ji was extremely shocked. With the power of the 3 of them, they were actually unable to take down the ancestor of technique. Didn't that mean that without Situ Haonan, he and Mo Kan were not the ancestor of technique's match? He had to get rid of the ancestor of technique, or else he would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Situ Haonan had the same thought. The carefree sex strength was similar to the Yuan Luo Palace. The 3 of them once again charged towards the ancestor of technique. The 2 sides were locked in a fierce battle. Force him to the island. During the battle, Situ Haonan transmitted a message to Kong Ji and Mo Kan. Kong Ji's eyes flashed with ferocity. He continued to attack violently, forcing the ancestor of technique towards Chenjin Dao. On Chenjin Island, the people from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect retreated far away, not daring to stay there. Slowly, their battle moved to Chenjing Island. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a sword light burst out from a hidden place on the island. The sword light was bright and sharp, and its power was extremely shocking. It was not any weaker than Situ Haonan's. You guys! The ancestor of technique revealed a shocked expression. He knew that he had been ambushed, and the other side still had experts to kill him. He didn't need to think to know that it was a grand elder of the Walkabout sect, an existence at the 4th level of the True God stage. The ancestor of technique tried his best to dodge, but Kong Ji and the other two launched a fierce attack, making it difficult for the ancestor of technique to truly dodge. In the end, the ancestor of technique didn't completely avoid it. A sword light streaked across his chest, almost cutting him to the side. "Get lost!" The ancestor of technique roared. In an instant, hundreds of sword lights shot out, forcing Kong Ji and the others to retreat. With a flash, Kong Ji and the other three surrounded the ancestor of technique. "Very good. I didn't expect that the strongest people of your two forces would be here." The ancestor of technique's face was pale. Although he had managed to avoid being hit in his vital parts, he had still suffered some injuries and his strength had been reduced. "Fa Ming, your fate has already been decided today. A mere ant from a small kiliacosm can't defy the heavens." Kong Ji coldly said. "Ha ha ha, so what if it's a small world? Do you think you're Oh. Blee just because you were born in the primeval world? How laughable, if it was a one-on-one battle. You all would be nothing more than clay chickens and pottery dogs." The ancestor of technique laughed coldly, his face filled with contempt. Kong Ji and the other three's faces were a bit gloomy. Indeed, none of the four of them were the ancestor of technique's match in a one-on-one battle. Even though their cultivation levels were higher. You only know how to use your tongue. The winner is king and the loser is a bandit. Fa Ming, I'll send you on your way. Kong Ji didn't waste any more words and his figure rushed towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, Situ Haonan and the other two also launched their attacks. Before this, the ancestor of technique had fought 3 people alone and was not a match for them. Now that he was injured, he was even less of a match for 4 people alone. He was at a disadvantage the moment they started fighting. General Zheng Tian is finished. In the future, the territory of the righteous army will belong to our 2 families. Not far away, the people from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect thought excitedly. Boom! Boom! The ancestor of technique and the other 4 fought intensely. The ancestor of technique was completely at a disadvantage and could only try his best to block. He had no power to fight back. Bang! After exchanging dozens of blows, the ancestor of technique's body was sent flying and crashed heavily into Chen Jin's island. Boom! Smoke and dust filled the air, and the sky was filled with ancient gold ore. A huge pit appeared on the island. At this time, Lu Ming had already said through the hurricane sage and returned to the Chengjin or vein. He followed the tunnel of the mine Qiuqiu had dug out earlier and headed out of Chenjing Island. Boom! 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 He was only halfway there when a violent boom came from above. Then, he felt the entire island shaking. Then, a terrifying force rushed toward him along the mine vein above. Not good. Lu Ming retreated frantically. Then, the mine vein in the area exploded continuously. Lu Ming was sent flying by a force. The ancestor of technique was lying in the deep pit on the island, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. This attack made his injuries a little worse. Buzz! The ancestor of technique barely managed to stabilize his injuries and rushed out of the deep pit. The auras of Kong Ji and the other 3 firmly locked onto the ancestor of technique, trapping him in the middle. Suddenly, Kong Ji and the others were stunned because they felt an aura of life within a pile of rocks. Bang! Then, the rocks exploded and a figure rushed out. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. Nest, what's going on? Lu Ming was speechless. He had also encountered an undeserved disaster when he said through the old gold mine. When his gaze swept across Kong Ji and the rest, his heart skipped a beat. He knew that this was bad. Kong Ji and the rest's aura was too terrifying. In Lu Ming's opinion, they were simply unfathomable. Lu Ming, why are you here? At this moment, the ancestor of technique also saw Lu Ming. He was shocked. In a flash, he appeared beside Lu Ming. Ancestor of technique. Lu Ming was overjoyed to see the ancestor of technique. So you're an ant from the righteous army. Fa Ming, it's your fortune to have a little brat die with you. Kong Ji coldly said. The ferocity in his eyes became stronger and stronger. Kong Ji, the master of the Yuan Luo Palace, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and many thoughts flashed through his mind. He roughly knew what had happened. The ancestor of technique was being surrounded. Don't worry, Fa Ming. After you die, I'll send the people of the righteous army to accompany you. Situ Haonan also said coldly. The four of them gradually approached the ancestor of technique, preparing to launch a thunderous attack to kill him. Senior, this battle sword is for you. At this moment, Lu Ming took out a combat sword and handed it to the ancestor of technique. This combat sword was one of the 2 level 7 middle-grade divine artifacts that Lu Ming had obtained from the cave abode. This is... The moment he saw the sword, the ancestor of technique's eyes widened in shock. However, he did not hesitate. He took it and spat a mouthful of blood onto the sword. He didn't have time to refine it now, but by sacrificing it with blood, he could temporarily release the power of the combat sword and control it freely. Baz! The battle sword shook, and a beam of sword chi shot up into the sky. Chapter 2617 Depressed Kong Ji. That is, a middle-grade level 7 god artifact. Kong Ji, Situ Haonan, Mo Kan and the rest couldn't help but widen their eyes, revealing an extremely shocked expression. At the same time, there was also a deep sense of greed. Kill! The ancestor of technique shouted and displayed the sword-breaking art. The sword light was bright and thick like pillars as it charged towards Kong Ji and the others. Attack! Kong Ji and the others also made their moves. 4 terrifying attacks were aimed at the ancestor of technique. Boom! Boom! A violent explosion sounded. The ancestor of technique's body retreated a few steps, but the attacks of Kong Ji and the others were all blocked by the ancestor of technique. He was only at a slight disadvantage. It really is a level 7 middle-grade god artifact. D.A.M. Enit, how could that brat have a level 7 middle-grade divine artifact? This kid must have had some fortuitous encounter. Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and the others shouted. However, they did not suspect that Lu Ming had obtained the divine weapon from the cave abode. This was because the door to the cave abode was too difficult to break open. Even with so many people, they would need to spend a lot of time to break it. How could Lu Ming break it? Moreover, they had searched the cave and found no other entrance. They only thought that Lu Ming had a fortuitous encounter from somewhere else. Lu Ming, follow me closely. The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming nodded and followed closely behind the ancestor of technique. Let's see which one of you can stop me. The ancestor of technique's long hair flew in the air, and his sword chi was wild as it rushed towards Kong Ji's direction. Stop him! Kong Ji roared and charged towards the ancestor of technique. Situ Haonan and the others also launched their attacks. However, the ancestor of technique was controlling a middle-grade level 7 divine artifact, and his battle prowess increased by a level. He was no longer afraid of Kong Ji and the other 3 joining forces. Both sides continued to attack and exchanged dozens of moves in an instant. However, the ancestor of technique was only at a slight disadvantage. Bang! In the end, the ancestor of technique defeated Kong Ji and brought Lu Ming out of the tight encirclement. I want to accompany you today. If you want to fight, well, fight another day. The ancestor of technique carried Lu Ming and flew into the distance. His voice could be heard from afar. D.A.M. Enit, D.A.M. Enit. Kong Ji roared endlessly. His face was filled with a sinister expression. Today was such a good opportunity, but the ancestor of technique had actually escaped. Only with this divine artifact could he contend with the other party and make them fear him. All right, I'll keep it for now. I'll return it to you when your cultivation improves. The ancestor of technique muttered to himself and did not decline. He also understood that Lu Ming was right. If he didn't have a level 7 middle-grade god artifact, if Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and the others joined forces to deal with him, he would really be no match. Putting away the combat sword, the ancestor of technique brought Lu Ming and met up with the rest of the righteous army. Ancestor of technique, how's the situation? Should we kill our way over? We can't let the Yuan Luo Palace occupy that expert's cave. The people of the righteous army said one by one. It doesn't matter. How is it possible for the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect to occupy this cave? Let's go back to the righteous army and spread the news that there's an expert's cave here. The ancestor of technique said. General is wise. Since we can't have it, they can't have it all to themselves. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. The righteous army laughed. Then, they returned to 7-Star Island and used the teleportation formation to return to the righteous army. Then they started to spread the news. Very quickly, the news of a deity's cave dwelling on the northern Shang star spread like a hurricane through the chaotic astral river, reaching the ears of every single power. What? It's actually a deity's cave abode. It's extremely rare in the chaotic astral river. I can't miss it. Looks like I'll have to make a trip there myself. In the chaotic astral river, all the powers, big and small, were alarmed. One expert after another hurried to northern Shang. In the chaotic astral river, divine realm experts are supreme existences. Their divine might can shake the endless starry sky. Currently, in the chaotic astral river, only the Yunfeng Pavilion has a single heavenly deity. The deity's cave dwelling was too attractive to the true god realm experts of the big and small forces. Not long after, experts arrived at the Tianjin mine on planet Northern Shang. All of them were true god stage existences. Moreover, the majority of them were powerhouses above the 4th stage true god realm. D.A.M. Enit, D.A.M. NFA Ming, D.A.M. N Righteous Army. Kongji roared again and again. He was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. With so many experts here, how could they have a share? They could only follow the crowd. Even if there were treasures inside, they might not even get a share. Any force here would not be weaker than the Yuan Luo Palace. Kongji really wanted to vomit blood. After he discovered this deity's cave dwelling, he didn't even get a single hair. Chapter 26:18 Qin Tian 13 Clans one by one. The experts began to enter the cave. However, the hurricane Pares sage behind was incomparably dangerous. Some people found that the deeper they went, the more tunnels there were, crisscrossing each other. The further they went, the stronger the wind Pares sages would become. Even a true god expert wouldn't be able to get in. Later on, the pavilion master of the Yunfeng Pavilion, who was a heavenly god expert, took action personally. He broke into the depths of the cave and was said to have obtained some treasures. As for what he had obtained, no one knew. This matter finally came to an end after the pavilion master barged into the cave abode and took the treasures. In the end, the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect didn't get anything. Kongji and Situ Haonan were extremely furious. They wanted to kill the ancestor of technique and destroy the righteous army. But in the end, they didn't dare to act rashly. They were actively looking for allies, hoping to find more to destroy the righteous army. Of course, the ancestor of technique wasn't idle either. He was also looking for allies to fight against the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect. Lu Ming could not help much in this regard. He could only focus on cultivation. In the Hurricane Pares, Sage of the Gods Cave abode, Lu Ming's cultivation level rose by 2 levels, and he reached the 7-star Heavenly Emperor level. Next, he only needed to consolidate his foundation and advance towards the realm of 10,000 elements returned to 1. At the same time, Lu Ming's comprehension of the battle character had also reached a peak after 2 years of intense battle with the lion-headed eagle beast in the Hurricane Pares Sage. Now he could trigger the double combat power at any time. 100% success rate. However, the word battle in his sea of consciousness was unfathomable and mysterious. Lu Ming understood that he was still far from comprehending it. Right now, he had only comprehended a tiny bit. If he continued to study, Lu Ming felt that he could trigger the tripled combat strength. However, it was not that easy to trigger the tripled combat strength. Lu Ming had reached a bottleneck and needed time to understand. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had Pares said. After 3 years of cultivation, although Lu Ming had yet to attain demigod level, he could feel that he was getting closer and closer to it. On this day, a piece of news was spread throughout the chaotic astral river, causing a violent shock. All the forces, big and small, went crazy and exploded. On this day, Lu Ming was cultivating when he received a message from the ancestor of techniques. The ancestor of techniques had something important and wanted to see him. Is there something important? Lu Ming was puzzled. Then, he came to a hall in the righteous army and realized that there were already 5 to 6 people waiting there. The 5 or 6 of them were not very old. Their cultivation time should not exceed 10,000 years. They were all considered to be of the younger generation. Tong Shi'er was among them. Lu Ming. Tong Shi'er smiled and greeted Lu Ming. The others also nodded at Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded in response. He then looked at Tong Shi'er and said, Miss Shi'er, may I ask why the general has summoned us? I don't know either. Tong Shi'er shook her head. The others were also confused. You're all here. At this moment, the ancestor of technique walked into the hall. General. Everyone bowed. No need to be so polite. The ancestor of technique waved his hand. You guys must be very curious. Why did I call you guys over in such a hurry? He asked. Lu Ming and the rest nodded. You guys should know that our chaotic astral river belongs to the Qin Heaven Starfield, right? The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming and the rest nodded again. At the same time, he felt a little strange in his heart. Could the matter this time be related to the Qin Heaven Starfield? In the chaotic astral river, there are hundreds and thousands of forces, big and small, countless planets, and an incomparably vast territory. However, when compared to the Qin Heaven Starfield, there was no way to compare. The Qin Heaven Star region contained many galaxies, at least a few hundred of them. The chaotic astral river was only one of the many astral rivers in the Qin Heaven galaxy. Furthermore, it was the worst and most backward one. The number of experts was also the smallest. What did the ancestor of techniques gathering have to do with the Qin Heaven Starfield? The Qin Heaven Star domain is too vast. There are hundreds of galaxies, and there are many races living there. There are countless experts. However, among these countless forces, other than a few terrifying races, the most powerful forces are the 13 clans. Qin Tian Starfield's 13 clans. Tong Shi'er and the other young men exclaimed in unison. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He had read the records in the ancient books. The Qin Heaven Star domain's 13 clans were 13 extremely powerful, extremely long established, and extremely terrifying clans. It could be said that other than a few terrifying races, the 13 clans stood at the peak of the vast Qin Heaven Star Zone. These 13 sects were divided into 3 overlords and 10 top sections. Without a doubt, the 3 overlords were the strongest, followed by the top 10 sections. These 13 sects occupied half of the Qin Heaven Star region and had countless life planets. They had ruled the Qin Heaven Star region for countless years. Forces like the Righteous Heaven Army, the Origin Luo Palace, and the Walkabout sect were like ants in front of the 13 clans. Even the number one power in the chaotic astral river, the Yunfeng Pavilion, is no different from an ant in front of the 13 clans. They can be destroyed with a flip of their hands. To the people of the chaotic astral river, the 13 clans were merely a legend. They had only read about them in the ancient records. That's right. Every 1,000 years, the 13 clans of the Qin Heaven Star Zone will recruit a batch of disciples from the entire Qin Heaven Star Zone. Now, the 1,000-year period is about to end again. The ancestor of techniques said. At this point he paused. The Qin Heavenly 13 clans are recruiting disciples. The breathing of Tong Shi'er and the others became heavy, but they were also puzzled. General, I've read the records. Every 1,000 years, the Qin Heavenly 13 clans will recruit a new batch of disciples. However, they have never recruited any disciples from the chaotic astral river. What does this have to do with us? Tong Shi'er asked. The chaotic astral river was the most backward, remote and weakest among the many galaxies in the Qin Heaven galaxy. Those from various races and powers who can't survive or those who have committed crimes have all run to the chaotic astral river. Therefore, the chaotic astral river is a chaotic place where good and bad are mixed together. It's extremely chaotic and has always been looked down upon by the other galaxies. The Qin Heaven Star region's 13 clans have never accepted any disciples from the chaotic astral river. Therefore, Tong Shi'er and the others had some doubts. This time it's different. The Qin Heaven 13 clans have announced to the world that they will be recruiting disciples from the entire Qin Heaven Starfield soon. The chaotic astral river will be among them. The ancestor of techniques said. Also for the chaotic astral river. Tong Shi'er and the other young men's breathing became heavy, and their eyes burned with fire. They were all excited. This time, the Qin Heaven's 13 clans had actually opened their doors to the chaotic astral river for the first time ever. If one could join any of the Qin Heaven's 13 clans, that would be a heavenly opportunity. In the future, one's cultivation level would definitely skyrocket, and one would become a man above all. In the chaotic astral river, heavenly deities were synonymous with invincibility. However, in the Qin heavenly 13 clans, heavenly deities were nothing. One could easily find a large handful of them. There were even many terrifying existences at the God-King realm in the Qin heavenly 13 clans. However, the sect I want you to join is not one of the 3 overlords, but one of the top 10 sects, the Kongxian sect. Kongxian sect. Lu Ming had some doubts. You must be wondering why I let you join the 3 overlord forces. Sigh, I have my own selfish motives here. Back then, I had some dealings with the Kongxian sect. At this point, the ancestor of technique told him about what had happened between him and the Kongxian sect. It turned out that after the ancestor of technique escaped from the Yuanluo palace, he had been traveling and tempering himself in the vast universe. He had once left the chaotic astral river and headed to other vast galaxies. In the process, he met a woman and fell in love with her. However, this woman was a proud daughter of the Sky Mystic sect, and her father was an important figure in the Sky Mystic sect. Such a status was much higher than the ancestor of techniques. Naturally, the woman's father was strongly against their relationship and had forcefully brought the woman back to the Kongxian sect. He had once said that the ancestor of technique would not let the two meet as long as he could not break through to the heavenly god realm. Sigh, with my talent, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for me to reach the sky celestial realm in this lifetime. So, I have some selfish motives and want you to join the Kongxian sect. At this point, the ancestor of technique took out an exquisite dagger and said, "If you join the Kongxian sect, return this dagger to her if you have the chance." Alright. Her name is Yue Xin. Return it to her and tell her that I've let her down. However, this is my own selfish desire. If you don't want to join the Kongxian sect, I won't force you. The ancestor of technique sighed. His eyes were filled with nostalgia and helplessness. Senior, I agree. Lu Ming smiled and took the dagger from the ancestor of technique's hands. The matter with the ancestor of technique reminded him of the matter between him and Xian Yanqing. In the divine wilderness continent, he and Xian Yanqing had also gone through many trials before they got together. It was actually somewhat similar to the matter with the ancestor of technique. Moreover, Lu Ming did not really care which sect or force he joined. He had Jing Ye's legacy, but he had yet to break the seal on Jing Ye's portrait. Once the seal was broken, Lu Ming believed that he would definitely gain something. Moreover, he still had the battle character formula to comprehend. The main reason he joined the sect was to obtain resources. All sorts of resources that would be helpful to his cultivation. Moreover, there was another reason. Although the Kongxian sect was one of the top 10 sects, it was ranked first. In this aspect, he was not much worse than the 3 overlords. Lu Ming, thank you. The ancestor of technique cupped his fists solemnly. Senior, your words are too serious. Senior, I have some friends. Can they partake? 1. P. 8 in the Qin Heaven 13 clans, disciple recruitment meet. Lu Ming hurriedly helped the ancestor of technique up. He thought of Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan. Of course you can. Anyone who hasn't cultivated for 10,000 years can partake. 1. P. 8. I remember that your wife's talent is extremely shocking. I originally wanted to ask you to ask her to come along. However, you need to be at least at the first level of the Void God realm to partake. 1. P. 8 in the selection. However, your combat strength is extremely strong, so you don't need to meet this condition. The ancestor of technique said. Do I need to be at the first level of the Void God realm? Lu Ming's heart stirred. Initially, he wanted to call Bubbles, his disciples, Lu Xiangxiang, Ouyang Moli, and the others. However, it seemed like only Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan fit the criteria. Lu Ming bade farewell to the ancestor of technique and returned to his residence. After he returned to his residence, Lu Ming looked for Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan and told them about the recruitment of disciples for the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Dandan immediately raised her hands in agreement. Xian Yanqing, she would naturally go wherever Lu Ming went. I agree. Xian Yanjuan agreed without hesitation. To Xian Yanjuan, she didn't care about heavenly gods or divine kings. She didn't care about divine skills or divine techniques. What she cared about was the cultivation resources in the powerful forces and the excellent cultivation environment. That way, her strength would skyrocket. During this period of time, all the major and minor powers in the chaotic astral river had become excited. They had gathered all the experts of the younger generation who met the requirements and were preparing to partake. 1. P. 8 in the Qin Heaven 13 Clan's selection of disciples. In a large hall in the Yuanluo Palace, 8 young men stood in a row. Kong Long was there, and at the head of the table was the Yuanluo Palace Master, Kong Ji. This time, all of you must do your best. At least one of you must join the Qin Heavenly 13 Clans, even if it's the weakest clan among the 13 clans. That way, the Yuanluo Palace's prestige in the chaotic astral river will increase greatly. At that time, we won't even have to fear the Yunfeng Pavilion. Do you understand? Kong Ji said loudly. Understood. We will do our best. Kong Long and the rest shouted. The pavilion master of the Yunfeng Pavilion is actually a woman. At this moment, many people's hearts were moved and they looked surprised. For countless years, this is the first time the Qin Heavenly 13 Clans have opened their doors to the chaotic astral river to recruit disciples. This is a supreme opportunity for all of you. Everyone, you must grasp it well. The clear voice of the Yunfeng Pavilion Master resounded in everyone's ears. However, all of you have to be mentally prepared. The Qin Tian 13 Clans' standards for recruiting disciples are astonishingly high. Without a certain level of talent, it's impossible to be chosen. Therefore, we're going to conduct a selection today. Those who pass the selection, I'll recommend you to partake. 1. P. 8 in the subsequent tests of the Qin Tian 13 Clans. At this point, the Yunfeng Pavilion Master waved his hand, and a small tower flew out. The small pagoda was bronze in color. As soon as it flew out, it rapidly grew in size. In the end, it turned into a giant pagoda that floated in the air. It had a total of 81 floors. The selection process is very simple. You will have to challenge the tower. There are puppets on every level of the tower. You will pass as long as you can pass the 36th level. When you enter the tower, a token will be condensed and follow you. Once you pass through the 36th level, the token will light up. No one can cheat. 10,000 people in a group. Go in. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master announced. It's just a tower challenge. This is easy. I'll go first. A burly young man was the first to soar into the sky and fly toward the gate of the giant tower. Let's go. I'll join you too. Immediately, figures rose into the air and flew toward the giant tower. When 10,000 people entered the giant tower, the gate of the giant tower automatically closed. Everyone waited patiently. When everyone flew into the giant tower, they could see that the first floor of the giant tower was shining. However, in just a few breaths, the second floor of the giant tower also glowed. This meant that someone had already reached the second level of the tower. But very quickly, the third, fourth, and fifth levels lit up. Lu Ming and the rest did not enter. They would take a look first. Chapter 2621 Shocking Elimination Rate. That's fast. Level 20 has lit up. Level 21. At the scene, people kept exclaiming. It was obvious that there were terrifying geniuses in this group of people who were extremely fast. Half an hour later. And NBSP suddenly, the SPA CE around the tower trembled, and a young serpent man appeared. There was a token floating above the young man's head, but it was dim. It was obvious that this young man had been eliminated. He had been teleported out before he could pass the 36th level. Eliminated, leave the square. The bronze-skinned man from before said. The serpent man youth's face was extremely unsightly. Sir, I was careless just now. Can you give me another chance? The serpent man youth shouted. He was truly unwilling to miss out on such an opportunity. If he could join the Qin Heaven 13 Clans, he would be able to soar into the sky. Leave the square. I'll say it one last time. The bronze-skinned man said coldly, and a cold aura emanated from his body. The young serpent man shivered and didn't dare to stay any longer. quickly flying out of the square. As soon as he flew out of the square, the token above his head disappeared. Following that, people were continuously sent out from the surroundings of the giant tower. They were all eliminated. Those who had been eliminated had ugly expressions on their faces. They knew that they had lost a great opportunity. The pavilion master of Cloud Peak Pavilion and the others watched coldly. If he couldn't even pass such a selection, even if he partook 1p. aided in the Qin Heaven 13 Clan's disciple recruitment test, he wouldn't have a chance of passing. He would only be a joke. As time said, more and more people were eliminated. The young men who had not entered the tower were a little nervous. However, the light on the giant tower was also getting brighter. The 36th level. Someone has said the 36th level. Someone shouted. At this moment, the 36th level was already shining. However, the person who had said the test had not come out yet, so it was obvious that he wanted to continue. There was no rule in the pavilion master's mind that one had to come out after sing the 36th level. One could still continue after that. The higher one went, the stronger they would be and the more valued they would be by the Cloud Peak Pavilion master. Sure enough, not long after, the 37th level also lit up. However, after the 36th level lit up, the speed of clearing the levels after that would be much slower. Furthermore, more and more people were being teleported out. In the end, nearly 9,000 people were teleported out, all of whom had failed the trial. However, following that, there were also those who had cleared the trial and were teleported out. The tokens on their heads glowed brightly, indicating that they had said the trial. Many people looked at these people enviously. Those who had successfully said the round also revealed looks of joy. Ha ha ha, this is a disciple of my Yellow Wind sect. He has said the selection. That's a disciple of my Lu Yun school. He also said the test. Outside the square, some people laughed in surprise. They were all experts from the major forces. Some people were happy, while others were sad. However, the challenge wasn't over yet. Half a day said before the last person was teleported out. This was a young man with a cold and arrogant expression. He had made it to the 46th level and was the first of this batch of people. He had a cold and arrogant look on his face as he scanned the surroundings, giving off the feeling of a princess. With such talent, there's a high chance that he'll be chosen by the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. It's very possible. The experts of the various forces around the square were envious. The people from the young man's force were all ecstatic. To be able to rank first out of 10,000 people, it was extremely possible that he would be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. That's because the total number of youths in the chaotic astral river who are going to partake 1p. 8 in the selection process is only 50 to 60,000. Out of the first batch of 10,000, 9,000 were eliminated, and only 1,000 or so said. The elimination rate was a total of 9 levels. Those who had not partook 1p. aided in the challenge were extremely nervous. Some of them were already sweating. However, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the rest were very relaxed. Next batch. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master instructed. Immediately, another 10,000 people flew into the giant tower. Among them, Lu Ming saw Kong Long, Situ Xiao, and the others. After the 10,000 people flew into the giant tower closed, and everyone waited patiently. The head of the Yuanluo Palace, Kong Ji, and the head of the Xiaoyao sect, Situ Haonan, looked at the tower nervously. Their eyes were filled with antic 1p. ation and anxiety. This time, after only about 20 minutes, someone was eliminated and sent out. After that, more and more people were eliminated. In the end, more than 9,000 people were eliminated. And NBSP buzz. More people were teleported out. Among them were Kong Long and Situ Xiao. However, the tokens above their heads were shining. It was clear that they had said. The two of them were full of smiles and excitement. When he looked at Lu Ming, his eyes were filled with provocation. Brat, wait until I join the Qin Heaven 13 clans. I'll make you die without a burial ground. Kong Long could not help but send a message to Lu Ming.
The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled up and he revealed a mocking expression.
He then looked in another direction and ignored Kong Long. Ha ha ha. Outside of the plaza, Kong Ji and Situ Haonan laughed loudly. They were so excited that their mouths cracked open. Especially Kong Long and Situ Haonan. They even looked at the ancestor of technique provocatively. But the ancestor of technique ignored them. The ancestor of technique was aware of the talents of Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Xian Yanjuan. Kong Long and the others were nothing. The challenge continued. Some people had not come out yet. As time said, some people had already said the 45th level and were heading towards the 46th level, closing in on the first place of the previous batch. Not long after, the 46th floor lit up, and they had already caught up with the best result of the first batch. However, it was clear that it had not stopped. The challenge was still going on. Then, the 47th, 48th, and 49th levels gradually lit up. Amazing. There's actually someone in this group who said the 49th level. Amazing. I wonder which faction he's from. There's a high chance that he'll be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Look, it's the 50th floor. In the square, countless people were staring at the giant tower and discussing. Even the eyes of the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master lit up. Feng hasn't come out yet. Could it be that Feng is inside? At this moment, Situ Haonan was excited. That was because his son, Situ Feng, had not come out. The others had all come out. Could it be Situ Feng who was challenging the tower? Thinking of this, Situ Haonan was extremely excited. Look, it's level 51. Someone shouted. Everyone was shocked that he had already reached the 51st floor. They were all very curious about who could make it to the 51st floor. However, the 51st level was not the limit. 52, 53. A day later, the 55th level lit up. It was almost 10 levels higher than the first place of the previous batch. This was extremely shocking. At this moment, the void around the giant tower trembled and a young man's figure appeared. The token above the young man's head was shining like a sun. Chapter 26-21, Pa. S. Big brother. It's my big brother. Seeing this young man, Situ Xiao cried out in ecstasy. This young man was Situ Feng. All the people around the square looked at Situ Feng with all kinds of emotions. Not bad. The master of Yun Feng Pavilion looked at Situ Feng with satisfaction. As the most powerful force in the chaotic astral river, the Yun Feng Pavilion has the right to recommend geniuses to take part in the Qin Heaven 13 clan's disciple recruitment test. Furthermore, she would also reward anyone who was chosen by the 13 clans. Therefore, the more geniuses there are in the chaotic astral river, the happier she is. With Situ Feng's talent, there was a high chance that he would be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. He might even be chosen by the 3 overlords. Becoming a disciple of one of the 3 overlord forces was undoubtedly a difficult task. However, once one joined, their future would be boundless. The eyes of the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master were burning with Shaun. Ha ha ha, it's Feng. It's my son, Situ Feng. It's my son. At this moment, Situ Haonan finally reacted and laughed out loud in surprise. Brother Situ, congratulations. On Kong Ji's face, he managed to squeeze out a smile and congratulated Situ Haonan. In his heart, he was extremely jealous. With Situ Feng's talent, if he joined the 13 clans and even caught the eye of some important figure, then the Footloose Sect's status would rise like a boat with the tide. He was jealous in his heart, but on the surface, he still wanted to build a good relationship with Situ Haonan. Brother Situ, so that heaven's favorite is your son. Your son's talent is truly shocking. Not bad, not bad. Brother Situ, I'll treat you to a drink some other day. You must do me the honor. Brother Situ. Immediately, the leaders of the major forces around Situ Haonan greeted him with a smile. It was obvious that he was trying to curry favor with Situ Haonan. What a joke. Situ Feng's talent was too shocking, and there was a high chance that he would be taken in as a disciple by the 13 clans. If he didn't suck up to Situ Haonan now, when else could he wait? Ha ha ha. Everyone. You're too polite, too polite. Right now. Might not be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. It's not certain yet. Situ Haonan laughed out loud. Although he said that Situ Feng might not be chosen by the 13 clans, his expression was extremely excited, as if he could already see Situ Feng being chosen by the 13 clans or even taken as a disciple by some big shot. His heart was at ease. This Situ Feng actually has such amazing talent. In the crowd, the ancestor of technique was also shocked. He had heard of Situ Feng's name before. It was rumored that Situ Feng was a martial arts fanatic who was obsessed with cultivation. His goal was to join the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Right now, it was just a screening. It would be fine as long as he could pass. Lu Ming stepped into the light door and was teleported out of the light door. He was outside the giant tower. After Lu Ming came out, a few gazes immediately swept toward him. That included Kong Long, Situ Xiao, Kong Ji, and the others. He was transported out so early, and the brightness of the token is not even as bright as mine. He probably just said through level 36. Kong Long sneered. That's right. I thought he had a lot of talent, but he's just so. Situ Xiao also sneered. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan were also discussing. I didn't expect this kid from the righteous army to succeed in clearing the trial. However, the brightness of the token is ordinary. There's almost no hope of him joining the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Kong Ji sneered and deliberately raised his voice for the ancestor of technique to hear. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. He could not be bothered. He was very clear about Lu Ming's talent. If he had given it his all, he would not have come out so early. It was obvious that Lu Ming did not want to be too ostentatious. It was fine as long as he could pass the test. Lu Ming did not attract any attention. Not long after Lu Ming came out, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan came out one after another. Naturally, they had successfully cleared the level. However, the brightness of the token was similar to Lu Ming's. Obviously, their thoughts were similar to Lu Ming's. It was enough to just pass the test. After some time, Tong Shi-er also appeared. Tong Shi-er had also said. The brightness of her token was much brighter than Lu Ming and the rest. She had said more than 40 levels. Chapter 2622 Envoy. After a period of time, Lu Ming's group of people had also finished challenging the levels. However, there was no one as amazing as Situ Feng in this group. The highest level they had said was the 45th floor, which was the same as the highest level of the first group. Then it was the 4th and 5th batch. There were also top heavens favorites in the next two groups, but only one person said the 50th floor. No one could surpass Situ Feng. This made Situ Feng the center of attention, and he became the #1 person among the younger generation of the chaotic astral river. As for Situ Haonan and the Walkabout sect, they were naturally the subject of much flattery. A group of leaders surrounded Situ Haonan to curry favor with him, and his face was filled with smiles. My son, Situ Feng, is such a genius. My Footloose sect will definitely rise. Once my son joins the Qin Heaven 13 clans, the righteous heaven army will be destroyed with a flip of his hand. Situ Haonan thought to himself, and his eyes turned cold. After the 5th batch, the selection process had ended. Those who said were in high spirits, and those who didn't were listless. High up in the sky, the pavilion master waved her hand, and the giant pagoda shrank. She then put it away. All right, this round's selection has ended. A total of 5,050 people have said the selection. At this point, the pavilion master paused for a moment and continued. However, this is only the screening I set. Don't think that just because you said it, you can take part in the 13 clans recruitment test. You still need to the test of the envoys from the 13 clans. Only if the envoys think you will you truly Do you understand? Many people's hearts tightened. It turned out that they still needed to the test of the 13 clans. Otherwise, they wouldn't be considered qualified and might not be able to take part in the test. All right, all of you go back first. Come back here 3 days later. At that time, the messenger will descend and personally examine all of you. The pavilion master then turned around and left. In the square, the The crowd also dispersed one by one. After Lu Ming and the rest returned to the inn, they waited quietly. 3 days said by in the blink of an eye. 3 days later, they returned to the square again. The square was still surrounded by people. However, only Lu Ming and the rest who had successfully cleared the level last time could enter the square. Soon, all 5,060 people had gathered.
They're here.
Someone suddenly spoke. Everyone's eyes looked in one direction. There were a few people walking in the air from that direction. One of them was the Yunfeng Pavilion Master. However, the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master was not walking in front. Chapter 2624. Very simple? Pass. The brocade-robed old man's voice rang out, and at the same time, many thoughts ran through his mind. This person is unique. I must pay close attention to him. Although he was not very sure that Lu Ming had mastered the path of domination, the path of domination was no small matter. If it was true, it would be terrible. He's passed. Nest, it's actually so simple. I thought it would be difficult. It seems like it's even easier than the tower challenge. It seems like the Pavilion Master's test is even more rigorous. That's right. If that kid can pass, he'll definitely pass. Seeing that Lu Ming had passed the test easily, many people relaxed and smiled. They all thought that the test set by the elder in brocade was very simple. Who's next? The elder in the brocade robe said. I'll do it. Immediately, hundreds of people shouted and rushed toward the stone gate. Since the assessment was so simple, he had to go up earlier to show off. One by one. The elder in the brocade robe said coldly, and a powerful aura pressed down, making the hundreds of young men stop. You first. The elder in brocade pointed at a handsome young man. Haha, I'll go first. The young man laughed and rushed towards the stone door, as if he was going to rush through it in one breath. Buzz! After he stepped through the stone door immediately lit up. A few rays of divine light danced out and blasted towards the young man. The young man looked relaxed. Divine power burst forth and he waved his palm. He wanted to learn from Lu Ming and destroy the divine light with ease. However, the young man's expression changed as soon as he came into contact with the divine light. His face was full of disbelief, and then he screamed miserably as his body flew backward and fell heavily on the ground. He spat out a large mouthful of blood and his body twitched non-stop. What? Many people were stunned. How could this young man be sent flying without even being able to withstand the first attack? Just now, when Lu Ming passed the test, it was clearly very easy. What was going on? Many people were dumbfounded. The young man who had been sent flying struggled to get up and swallowed a healing pill to stabilize his injuries. Failure next. The elder in the brocade robe said coldly. Wait a moment, senior. Wait a moment. The young man who had failed shouted. What's the matter? The brocade-robed elder said. Senior, it's not fair. I don't think it's fair. When that kid passed through the stone door, the attack wasn't that strong. Why did it become so strong when I passed through? The young man cried out, feeling wronged. He could clearly see that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the transformation void martial stage while he was at the second level of the void god stage. There was no reason why Lu Ming could pass while he could not. Impudent! You dare to doubt the envoy? The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master shouted coldly. The young man immediately broke out in a cold sweat. It's fine. The elder in the brocade robe raised his hand to stop the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master. Then he glanced at the crowd and said, Let me tell you, my test is absolutely fair. However, I can also tell you that the attack of this stone door will be different according to the person who enters. The stone door will be adjusted according to the person's age, the level of divine power, and so on. Only those with higher overall talent can pass through. Ordinary people will not be able to pass through. Do you understand? Also, the Qin Heavenly 13 clans never look at your cultivation level when recruiting disciples. Because, to the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, cultivation level has no meaning. Even if you are a heavenly deity, to the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, it wouldn't be of much use. The Qin Heaven 13 clans take in disciples based on talent and potential. The voice of the elder in the brocade robe sounded in everyone's ears. Indeed, to the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, the difference in cultivation didn't mean much. In their eyes, there was no difference between a first-level Void God realm and a ninth-level Void God realm. What they wanted was talent and potential.
However, the handsome young man still looked unwilling. On what basis could a transformation Void Martial stage person pass while he, who was at the second level of the Void God realm, couldn't?
It seems like you're still unwilling to give up. However, do you really think that you can defeat him just because your cultivation is higher than his?
The brocade-robed elder said indifferently.
Of course I can defeat him. I only need 3 moves, no, I only need 1 move to suppress him. The handsome young man shouted and looked at Lu Ming indignantly. Oh. Since that's the case, I'll let you have a battle and make you admit your defeat. Little fellow, are you willing to fight?
The elder in the brocade robe looked at Lu Ming. No problem.
Lu Ming smiled and walked to the handsome young man. Kid, I'll suppress you with 1 move and let everyone know who's qualified to take part in the 13 clans disciple recruitment test.
The handsome young man said arrogantly.
A cold look flashed in his eyes.
Then, he rushed out and made a move with all his strength.
A huge palm print fell on Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's expression was calm.
He stood there without moving as if he did not see the other party's attack.
When the palm force of the other party was close, Lu Ming pointed with his finger. The finger force was like a spear ray, directly penetrating the opponent's palm print and shooting into the opponent's shoulder.
The handsome young man let out a blood-curdling screech as his shoulder was pierced through. The powerful force sent him flying to the edge of the square, and he fell heavily on the ground, spitting out a large mouthful of blood.
The scene suddenly became quiet. 1 move, just 1 move. Lu Ming defeated the handsome young man. Just like when he passed through the stone door, he did so easily. What a powerful genius! Many people were shocked. Lu Ming was only at the transformation Void Martial stage, but he was able to defeat a second-level Void God realm expert. It was truly unbelievable. After Lu Ming pointed with his finger, he turned around and walked back. He was only a second-level virtual god who could control ordinary divine power. To Lu Ming, he was not challenging at all. What a powerful divine power. If he breaks through to the martial god realm, even if it's not divine-grade divine power, it'll be king-grade divine power. I didn't expect that the chaotic astral river would actually have such a powerful heaven's favorite. The elder's eyes brightened. Humph! Kong Long, Situ Xiao, and the rest snorted coldly. They were very displeased to see Lu Ming in the limelight. Situ Feng, on the other hand, looked calm. No one could tell what he was thinking. Do you see this? My stone door is absolutely fair. The assessment will continue. A loss is a loss and a win is a win. If anyone has any more doubts, they will be disqualified immediately. The brocade-robed elder announced in an overbearing manner. Earlier on, he had agreed to the handsome young man's challenge mainly because he wanted to see Lu Ming fight. Otherwise, if the handsome young man dared to doubt him, he would have long been chased away. The test continued. Another young man stepped forward, but he also failed and was sent flying out of the stone door. Chapter 26-25 Myriad Spirit Planet. As the number of people taking the test increased, the crowd was shocked to find that the difficulty of the test in the stone door was shockingly high. The elimination rate was shockingly high. Out of 10 people, only 1 person could pass S. At this moment, everyone understood that they had completely underestimated Lu Ming. Lu Ming could pass S through easily, not because the difficulty of the stone door was low, but because he was talented and powerful. Situ Feng has made his move. Someone suddenly spoke. Situ Feng walked toward the stone door calmly. A combat sword appeared in his hand, and sword light burst forth. Every time he stabbed, it would hit nothing. It didn't collide with the divine light from the stone door, but the divine light would dissipate one by one. Situ Feng also said the test easily.
Good comprehension.
The elder in the brocade robe nodded slightly. After Situ Feng, it was Kong Long, Situ Xiao, and the others. Kong Long and Situ Xiao both controlled king-grade divine power. Although it was not easy, they still said. However, the other 2 from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect had failed. This way, only 3 people from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect said the test. Soon, Dandan, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Tong Shi and the others also stepped forward. As the divine turtle of the world, Dandan also had amazing potential after becoming a god. She had also mastered king-grade divine power and par S, said the A.S. assessment. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan loosened their grip, which made the old man's eyes light up again. Following that, Tong Shi also par S, said the test, but the rest of the righteous army had all failed. In this way, the righteous army, Lu Ming and the rest, a total of 5 people par S, said. This made Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and the rest's expressions turn ugly. The Stone Gate A.S. assessment continued for a few days. Finally, all 5,060 people had been tested. 500 people. In the end, only 500 people par S, said the test of the stone door. The others all failed. The success rate was shockingly low.
In the entire chaotic astral river, there were close to 1,000 powers and 50,000 to 60,000 young heavens pride experts.
In the end, only 500 people par S, said the test. A 1 in 100 chance. All right, my test is over. The 500 of you can head to the Qin Heaven Star System's Myriad Spirit Planet to take part in the Qin Heaven 13 Clans test. Take this jade token.
With that, the elder in the brocade robe waved his hand and 500 jade tokens flew out, flying toward Lu Ming and the others.
They stretched out their hands and with the help of the jade token, each of them got one. The jade token felt warm and heavy in his hand. There were lines of tiny runes on it, and it looked very beautiful. Chapter 26-26 S. Assessment rules. Every 1,000 years, the Qin Heaven 13 clans would recruit disciples. It was a grand event in the hearts of countless geniuses in the Qin Heaven Star region. It was also the day when countless geniuses would soar to the sky. Soon, there were only 3 days left before the A.S. assessment. On this day, the sound of bells rang throughout the city. Let's go. It's a gathering order from the Qin Heaven 13 clans. It's time to announce the rules of the A.S. assessment. The ancestor of techniques said. He led Lu Ming and the rest in the direction of the bell. In the middle of Wanling City, there was a vast open S.P.A.C.E. It was originally a huge market, but during this period of time, the market was removed and used for the A.S. assessment. This open S.P.A.C.E. was too big. It would not be a problem to accommodate hundreds of millions of people at the same time. Very quickly, this open S.P.A.C.E. was already filled with people. Not only were there young Heaven's Pride experts who wanted to take part in the A.S. assessment, but there were also many people who wanted to watch the fun. In fact, there were more people who came to watch the show than those who partook. 1. P. Aided in the A.S. assessment. Buzz. Buzz. At this time, a few figures suddenly appeared in the sky, and the scene quieted down. There are 3 more days before the examination. Now, I'll explain the details of the examination and the rules. In the sky, an imposing man spoke. The scene was silent. Everyone listened quietly, afraid to miss any details. Each of you should have an ident. 1. Tai jade token to partake. 1. P. 8 in the examination. The middle-aged man took out a jade card. It was almost the same as the one Lu Ming and the rest had. The only difference was the pattern on it. 3 days from now, when the time for the test is up, as long as you are within Wanling City, no matter where you are, this jade token will bring you to a virtual S.P.A.C.E. We call it the Dream S.P.A.C.E. In the Dream S.P.A.C.E., everything is virtual. Only your consciousness can enter it. Furthermore, your cultivation will be suppressed to first-level Void God realm in the Dream S.P.A.C.E. If you're already at the first level of the Void God realm, then it won't change. If you're not at the first level of the Void God realm, it won't change either. However, although your cultivation has been suppressed to first-level Void God realm, the attributes of your divine power will not change. If you control King-grade divine power, it will still be King-grade divine power inside. If you control Sacred-grade divine power, It will still be sacred grade divine power. There are 2 rounds in the test. In the first round, the dream realm will be divided into 20 areas. All the partic 1. P. Ants will be evenly divided into 20 areas and fight. However, there's one thing that you can rest assured about. Before you enter the 20 regions to fight, you will enter a special region. There are many incomplete divine skills there. These incomplete divine skills can be cultivated to the point where they can burst out with power even if you're at the first level of the Void God realm. From now on, you will have a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skill. Then, you will enter the 20 regions and fight to determine the ranking. This time we've calculated that the entire Qin galaxy, hundreds of galaxies, has a total of about 1 million people partic. 1. P. Aiding in the assessment. At that time, each region will have 50,000 people. 50,000 people will kill each other. The rule is that every time you kill an opponent, you will get 1 point. At the same time, you will take half of the opponent's points. Each person has 2 lives, which is 2 chances. In the end, only the top 100 of each region can partic. 1. P. 8 in the next round. Those who don't make it into the top 100 will be eliminated. The middle-aged man explained all of the rules in one breath. After he was done, he stopped and allowed everyone to digest them. I see. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he made a conclusion in his heart. The assessment this time was very simple. It was divided into 2 rounds. There would be around 1 million people partic. 1. P. 8ing. The Jade card would bring them into the Dream P. A. CE. If they were killed in there, they wouldn't really die. Their cultivation would be suppressed to first-level ethereal god realm. Of course, for people like Lu Ming who were below first-level virtual god level, they could only keep it as it was. Then they would have a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skill, and the 1 million or so people would enter 20 regions. Each region would have 50,000 or so people, and the 50,000 or so people would fight each other to obtain points. Only the top 100 people would be able to enter the next round. Furthermore, each person had 2 chances. This was also for the sake of fairness. It would be a bit of a waste if some geniuses were killed by a powerful enemy from the beginning. There are actually over 1 million people partic. 1. P. 8ing. Lu Ming was also secretly shocked. After a while, when everyone had digested the information, the middle-aged man continued. Those who are eliminated in the first round might have a chance to join the Qin Tian 13 clans. As long as you perform well and obtain higher points, you will have a chance to be selected by the 13 clans. Of course, the better you perform, the more attention you'll receive. Alright, let's get to the point. The specific rules will be shown on your Jade tokens. Take a good look at it. Do you have any questions? After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he swept his gaze across the entire scene. Senior, I have a question. At this moment, a young man spoke. Speak. The middle-aged man said. Senior, why did you suppress your cultivation to the first level of the Void God realm? If I cultivate to the 6th level of the Void God realm, won't I be unable to unleash my full power? The young man said. 6th level of the Void God realm? Do you think you're a genius? The middle-aged man asked. The young man didn't say anything, but his expression clearly showed that he agreed. Cultivation will never represent one's talent. I can tell you that within the Qin Heaven 13 clans, there are plenty of people who have reached the 6th level of the Void God realm within 10,000 years of cultivation. You can find them all over the streets. There are many true body realm experts who have cultivated for less than 10,000 years. Some of them have even reached the heavenly God realm. What is a 9th level Void God realm expert like you? Would the Qin Heavenly 13 clans lack a 6th level Void God realm expert? As long as the Qin Heavenly 13 clans give the order, how many 6th level Void God realm existences can the Qin Heavenly star system gather? The middle-aged man's repeated questions made the young man speechless. There are many ways to increase one's cultivation. There are heavenly treasures, fortuitous encounters, or long periods of cultivation. Therefore, cultivation is of no use to the Qin Heaven 13 clans. When the Qin Heaven 13 clans recruit disciples, they look at talent, potential, and cultivation. There are plenty of ways to raise it. I'll suppress all of your cultivation to the first level of the Void God realm and give you 1 year to test your talent and comprehension. Only those with high talent and comprehension can join the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. Do you understand? The middle-aged man said. The young man's face turned red, but he didn't say anything. He came from a big force and had consumed countless natural treasures to reach his current cultivation level. However, in the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, would there be a lack of natural treasures? Chapter 26-27 Entering the Dream S. P. A. C.E. Many people also revealed thoughtful expressions. Indeed, one's talent and comprehension could only be seen under such an A.S. assessment mechanism. In the martial god realm, talent and comprehension were the most important. That was why they kept their divine power levels and gave them a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skill before they started fighting. This way, those with high Shin power and high comprehension would be able to stand out. Mastering high-level divine power was a talent. However, one's perception was also very important. This was because the level of Shen power was not innate, but could be cultivated. Some terrifying and exquisite divine skills could cultivate king-grade divine power, sacred-grade divine power, and even divine-grade divine power. Within the Qin Heaven's 13 clans, there were all such terrifying divine techniques. As long as one cultivated it to an extremely high level, one would be able to cultivate a high-level divine power. It was said that when the 3 overlord forces' divine techniques were cultivated to the highest level, they could cultivate divine-grade divine power. Thus, if a person's Shen power level was not high but his comprehension was amazing, his future would be limitless. Of course, there were some people who did not cultivate these divine skills and naturally cultivated high-level Shen power, and there were many of them. Lu Ming, Tong Shi'er, and the others were all like this. Of the disciples that the Qin Heavenly 13 clans wanted to recruit, one had to have a high level of divine power, while the other had to have extraordinary comprehension. Also, let me tell you all. Some of you came from some major powers and might have already cultivated some incomplete divine skills. However, in the Dream S. P. A. C. E., you are not allowed to use the incomplete divine skills that you have already cultivated. You can only use the incomplete divine skills that you have comprehended in the Dream S. P. A. C. E. Once you violate this rule, you will be eliminated. The Qin Heavenly 13 clans will never recruit you again. Do you understand? The middle-aged man's voice reverberated throughout the entire area. Understood. Many people shouted. All right, I'll stop here. Good luck. Then, the middle-aged man and the others turned around and left. After the middle-aged man and the rest left, the rest of the people in the square also slowly dispersed. Lu Ming and the rest also returned to their lodgings. Not long after he returned to his residence, a large amount of information appeared on the jade token. It was all about the A.S. assessment and some rules. Lu Ming and the rest looked at it carefully again and then made preparations actively. There were only 3 days left before the A.S. assessment began. Not only them, but everyone else was actively preparing for it. A group of people stood in a huge courtyard. They were all tall and burly, as if they were made of metal. These people were a branch of the King Kong race, a terrifying race in the primeval universe. The Vajra race was a very powerful race in the primeval universe. It ranked in the top 10,000 among the countless races in the primeval universe. There was a list of 10,000 races in the primeval universe, which listed the 10,000 most powerful races in the primeval universe. The Diamond race was one of them. However, the main clan of the King Kong race wasn't in the Qin Heaven Star Domain. The Qin Heaven Star Domain was only a branch. At this moment, dozens of Vajra race members were surrounding a young Vajra race member like stars surrounding the moon. This young Vajra race man was even more burly and was 3 meters tall. Golden Sage, you're a rare genius that only appears once every 100,000 years in the Qin Tian branch of the King Kong race. This time, you must rank in the top 3 in the Qin Tian 13 clans A.S. assessment and join one of the 3 overlords. An elderly King Kong ordered. Don't worry, clan leader. It's just the top 3. I'm 100% confident. The Golden Sage said with a confident smile. On a mountain in Wanling City, this place had been bought by a group of tiger men. The Tiger Men tribe was only a small tribe in the entire primeval universe. They were far from being ranked in the top 10,000. However, in the Qin Heaven Star Zone, the Tiger Men tribe's strength could not be underestimated. Roar! At the peak of the mountain, a young tiger man roared towards the sky. The wind and clouds surged, and his aura was wild. This time the top 3 know, I'm aiming for the first place. The young tiger man's eyes were like lightning, and he was filled with the aura of a king. To the north of Wanling City, there was a lake. It was not big, but it was very clean. It was like a mirror, and one could clearly see the fish in the lake. There was a simple pavilion by the lake. At this moment, there were 2 figures in the pavilion, looking at the calm lake.
One of them was a white-haired old man in a long white robe.
He looked like a sage. The other person was a young man who looked to be in his 20s. This young man was handsome and was also wearing a white robe, like an elegant young master. Are you confident about this time's Qin Tian 13 clan examination?
The old man asked the young man.
The young man was called Ling Hu Yi. According to the rules this time, I'm 100% confident that the first place will be mine. Ling Hu Yi said.
His face was calm without any pride, as if he was just stating a fact.
Good. With your talent, as long as you give it your all, the first place will definitely be yours. Moreover, you'll definitely be able to enter the 3 overlord forces and even receive special training.
The white-haired old man stroked his beard and looked at Ling Hu Yi with satisfaction.
If they did not enter the Dream SPACE and fought outside, Ling Hu Yi would not have such an advantage. However, the rules this time gave him 1 year to comprehend and cultivate an incomplete divine skill, which was Ling Hu Yi's biggest advantage. Ling Hu Yi's comprehension was the strongest that the old man had seen in countless years. Although Ling Hu Yi's divine power level was not high, it was because he lacked opportunities and divine skills. However, Ling Hu Yi's terrifying comprehension could make up for it. And NBSP the old man was filled with antic. 1. Asian. As long as Ling Hu Yi joined the 3 overlord forces and was nurtured, he would definitely be able to reach a terrifying realm. In the blink of an eye, 3 days pass. Said. On this day, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Tong Shihe were gathered in a room. They sat cross-legged in a circle. There was no need to go to a specific place to partake. 1. 8 in the assessment. As long as they were in Wanling City, the ident. 1. Tai Jade card would bring them into the Dream SPACE. Baz. Woo. At that moment, the jade tokens in Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the others' hands trembled slightly. They emitted a bright light and floated above their heads. Then, a beam of light fell from the jade token and enveloped them. Then, Lu Ming and the rest felt that their spirits and souls had been drawn out and flew into the jade card. It was pitch black in front of them. Almost instantly, their eyes lit up as they opened their eyes. When they opened their eyes, they found that they were on a huge platform, and in front of the platform was a stone tablet. Countless stone tablets stood on the vast land. Each stone tablet was 100 meters tall, and there were some words and pictures carved on each stone tablet. There were too many steals. There was no end to them. Is the incomplete divine skill on this stone tablet? Lu Ming's heart stirred. They were going to stay here for a year to comprehend and cultivate the incomplete divine skill. Chapter 2628 Tiger Tribe's Provocation. At this moment, Lu Ming noticed that a badge had appeared on their chests. On the badge was a picture of a ruin that was made of jade. This was their symbol. People who came from different galaxies all had a badge with a different pattern on their chest. There's no change in my cultivation. Then, Lu Ming carefully sensed his body and realized that his cultivation level had not changed at all. He was still a 7-star celestial emperor, and the power of domination was surging. Of course, their weapons and storage rings could not be brought in. In reality, weapons were not allowed in this compet. 1. Tie-in. If one wanted to use a weapon, they would have to use divine power and rely on their own abilities. Is your cultivation base being suppressed? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Tong Shihe, and Dandan. I've been suppressed to the first level of the Void God realm, but my divine power level hasn't changed. Xian Yanqing said. Me too. Tong Shi also nodded. There's no change in mine. Dandan said. His cultivation was at the first level of the Void God realm, so there was no change. Lu Ming nodded. It was indeed the same as what the rules said. At this moment, on the platform, many people flashed and rushed toward the stone tablets. Time was limited. They only had a year's time. A year's time to comprehend an incomplete divine skill was too short. They had to seize the time to find an incomplete divine skill that was suitable for them and cultivate it.
With every moment he cultivated, he might be able to reach a higher level of maturity.
When he fought with others, he would have an advantage. Millions of people rushed into the vast stone tablets, looking for a divine skill that suited them. Lu Ming and the rest also rushed down the platform and headed for the stone tablet. Soon, they arrived at the first huge stone tablet. At this moment, two young men were already looking at the stone tablet carefully. On the stone tablet, there were lines of words and pictures. This was a palm technique that leaned towards the feminine side. Lu Ming and the rest took a few glances and then directly ignored it. It was not suitable. They continued forward. As they walked, they attracted the attention of many people. The two sisters, Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan, were simply too beautiful when they walked together. The two of them looked exactly the same, and it was hard not to attract attention. What beautiful women, and they look exactly the same. Look at their badges. They are from the chaotic astral river. I never thought that there would be such a beautiful woman in the chaotic astral river. Who is that person? He's actually walking together with such a beautiful woman. What right do you have to stand next to two beautiful women? The dozen or so young men of the tiger tribe all roared as their bodies flashed with cold killing intent. 3, 2, 1. Lu Ming said disdainfully, counting the time for Xian Yanqing. 3 seconds later, Lu Ming stepped forward and held Xian Yanqing's hand. He said in disdain, a bunch of idiots. Provocation, disdain, and mockery. This was a blatant mockery. Killing intent exploded from the bodies of the Tiger Men youths. Kid, kneel down and admit your mistake. Slap yourself 100 times. Otherwise, it'll make you die without a burial place. The tiger was furious and revealed its uneven fangs. Oh, if you have the ability, then do it. Lu Ming said in disdain. You?
Hu Mao and the other young men of the tiger tribe glared at Lu Ming with wide eyes. However, they did not dare to make a move. The A.S. assessment had not started yet. During this 1 year of comprehending and cultivating the incomplete divine skill, no one was allowed to make a move. Whoever made a move would be disqualified. If not for that, Hu Mao and the rest would have long torn Lu Ming into pieces. Kid, you've got guts. Just you wait. Don't meet anyone from my tiger tribe in the A.S. assessment 1 year from now. Otherwise, you'll die a terrible death. Hu Mao spoke coldly before turning to the other tiger men. Brothers, go and inform the other clan members.
If they meet this person in the A.S. assessment, kill him without mercy. Kill him ruthlessly. All right, there are so many people in my tiger tribe. He's dead for sure. Hell, die a terrible death. The other tiger men all called out. Chapter 2629 Comprehending an Incomplete Divine Skill. A bunch of idiots. Little Qing, let's go. Lu Ming pulled Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Tong Shi and Dandan directly par Sing by the Tigermen tribe and heading deep into the forest of stone steels. The dozen or so tiger tribe youths nearly exploded in anger, and they gritted their teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. This brat is too impulsive. He actually dared to offend the heavens' favorite of the Tigermen race. I reckon that in the chaotic astral river, he's a peak-grade heavens pride expert and is used to being arrogant. However, in a mere chaotic astral river, he's a tyrant. In the entire Qin Tian starfield, he's nothing. That's right. The Tigermen tribe is a large tribe in the Qin Heaven Star domain. There are hundreds of star rivers in the Qin Heaven Star domain, and the Tigermen tribe occupies one of them. They are extremely powerful. I heard that there are thousands of Tigermen tribe geniuses per tick. 1. P. Aiding in the 13 clans, A. S. Assessment this time. That's right, there are indeed thousands of people. Even if they are divided into 20 regions, there will definitely be a large number of people from the tiger tribe in each region. I also heard that there is a peerless genius in the tiger tribe who can control sacred grade divine power. That kid will die a miserable death. It's not wise to show off your power in front of a beauty. The surrounding people who had seen this scene were in a heated discussion. These voices naturally reached Lu Ming's ears. However, Lu Ming only smiled faintly and did not take it to heart. At that time, when he was divided into 20 areas to fight, he would be more than happy if the Tiger Men tribe came to find trouble with him. Giving him points, what was there to be unhappy about? Lu Ming and the rest wandered around the stone tablets, looking at each of them. Not long after, Xian Yanjuan stopped in front of a stone tablet. There was a sword technique carved on the stone tablet, and with just a glance, it seemed as if a holy sword light was bursting out. It's a pretty good sword technique. I'll choose this one, Xian Yanjuan said. Then, he stood under the stele and began to read it carefully. Lu Ming and the rest continued to search. This forest of stone steles was extremely large and contained a vast number of incomplete divine skills. An incomplete offensive divine skill, an incomplete defensive divine skill, an incomplete movement divine skill. It had everything. After more than a day, Dandan and Tong Shi had found suitable incomplete divine skills and started to cultivate them. I'll practice this sword technique. Xian Yanqing walked to a stone tablet. This stone tablet also recorded a sword technique. Bas! The long spear in Lu Ming's hand swept out and a terrifying roar burst out in the air. It rang 3 times and then disappeared. Success! I finally stepped into the first stage. Lu Ming revealed a look of joy. After more than 2 months of hard work, Lu Ming had finally cultivated the incomplete divine skill to the first level. At the first level, a single strike of the spear would have 3 levels of power exploding out in an instant. The power was extremely shocking. At the same time, there were 3 changes contained within, making it difficult to grasp and guard against. If one cultivated it to the second level, one spear could have 5 levels of power and 5 changes. The higher the level of cultivation, the stronger the power. Continue. Lu Ming continued to study. After cultivating to the first stage, the difficulty of cultivation became even greater. For any divine skill, the later it was, the more difficult it would be. If even the initial stage was so difficult, one could imagine how difficult it would be later on. Lu Ming was focused on his cultivation and did not care about the outside world. Half a year later, Lu Ming finally broke through to the second level of this spear technique. At this point, Lu Ming and the rest had been here for 8 months. There were still 4 months to go before the A.S. assessment began. 4 months par S. Said in the blink of an eye. The 1-year period was up. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's spear technique was still stuck at the second level and had not reached the third level. Buzz! 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 All of a sudden, a buzzing sound rang out in the sky. In the sky, a series of symbols appeared, and they were extremely colorful. It's about to start. It's finally starting. Many people were whispering. Some people were nervous, but some people revealed looks of antic. 1. P. Asian. Suddenly, pillars of light appeared in the sky and enveloped everyone. Then, everyone flew into the sky along the pillars of light and disappeared. The next moment, Lu Ming realized that he had appeared in a room. This place. Is this the area for the A.S. assessment? Lu Ming muttered. This A.S. assessment would be divided into 20 different areas. More than 1 million people would enter 20 different areas and fight. As for which region they would enter, it was completely random. Chapter 2630 Battle begins at this moment. In Wanling City, the market where the news was announced a year ago was already full of people. Countless people had gathered here. At this moment, 20 huge screens appeared in the sky above the open S.P.A.C.E. On these 20 huge screens there were names. On each screen there were more than 50,000 names. All of them were the names of the partic. 1. P. Ants. Behind each name, there was a corresponding galaxy. For example, Lu Ming's name appeared in the 20th zone. Behind the name, it was marked with the words, Chaotic Astral River. Xian Yanqing was in the 1st region, while Xian Yanjuan was in the 3rd region. Tong Shi was in the 10th region, and Dandan was in the 18th region. Quick, find out which district Konglong is in. Also Feng Shao is in that area. In the crowd, Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and the others started to search. With their eyesight, they could naturally see 1,000 things with a single glance. Their speed was amazing, and it didn't take long for them to find the area where Konglong, Situ Shao, Situ Feng, and the others were. This time, over 1,000 people had come to the chaotic astral river under the leadership of the master of the Yunfeng Pavilion. They had all come to watch the battle. The ancestor of technique was also among them, not far from Konglong and the others. They weren't the only ones. People from the other galaxies were also looking for the heavens' favorites from their own factions. At the moment, the names appeared randomly, but once the fight started, the names would be arranged according to the score. The one with the highest score would be in first place until the end of the 3 months. The top 100 geniuses in each region would be the victors, and the others would be eliminated. They only looked at the points, not whether they were killed. As long as you had enough points to rank in the top 100, you could advance even if you were killed. It's starting, the 6th region. Huya has points, so fast, already 3 points. Someone shouted. In the beginning, each of them only had 1 point. 1 point for each person they killed. In other words, Huya had already killed 3 people. In the other areas, the Golden Sage is not any slower. The killing has started. Many people have ACCU. Mulat points. The names on the 20 screens kept flashing. Some names would appear in the 1st, 2nd, or even higher positions. The corresponding points would also appear behind the names. There were more than 1 million names flashing non-stop. Only the experts present could see them clearly. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been dazzled with a single glance. The 20th region. Lu Ming opened the door and walked out. Did I just appear in a city? Lu Ming guessed that he was now in a courtyard. Bas. Lu Ming's figure moved and he rushed up to a house. Then, he started to run around the room. It was very dangerous to do so. It was easy to be targeted by others. However, Lu Ming did this on purpose. Instead of looking for those people one by one, it was better to let others find him. As expected, someone made a move. From one of the buildings, a figure pounced on Lu Ming like an arrow. At the same time, a sharp sword light stabbed at Lu Ming's forehead. Good. Lu Ming fired a shot with his backhand. Clang. The long spear hit the sword light of the other party. The other party's body shook violently and was thrown back. Blood spurted out of his mouth and his eyes were full of disbelief. He could clearly sense that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the transformation Void Martial stage and had not reached the Void God stage. As for him, although his cultivation base was suppressed here, he was still at first level Void God realm. However, he was sent flying by Lu Ming and suffered serious injuries in an instant. Kill! Lu Ming stomped his feet heavily and his figure shot out. At the same time, a sharp spear gleam pierced through the void and killed the other party in the air. He was killed easily. Lu Ming's expression did not change. The divine power that the other party controlled was just ordinary divine power. Although Lu Ming's cultivation level was not as high as the other party was suppressed to first level virtual god level, so he could easily kill him. This was under the premise that he could not use the battle formula. If he could use the battle formula, Lu Ming's abilities would be even more shocking. Without exceptional comprehension and talent, it was very difficult to gain anything. From the righteous army? However, the 3 of them did not act rashly because Lu Ming was too calm. He was so calm even when facing the 3 of them, which made them feel a little guilty. You didn't run when you saw us. You're very confident. One of the young men said. You're here to give me points, why should I escape? Lu Ming asked. Give you free points? Hee hee, you're really confident. I'm just afraid you don't have the ability. The other youth said. His divine power surged and a combat sword formed. Make your move. I'll give you the chance to make your move. Lu Ming said calmly. Arrogant. Let's kill him together. A young man coldly shouted. In an instant, the 3 young men moved. 3 attacks were aimed at Lu Ming. It's not weak. It seems that after more than a month of fighting, those who can be left behind have some skills. As soon as the 3 of them attacked, Lu Ming could tell that the 3 young men were not weak. Although the divine power that the 3 of them controlled was only ordinary divine power, they had a deep understanding of the incomplete divine skill. They had reached the limit of the first stage and were not far from the second stage. However, compared to Lu Ming, he was still far from having such abilities. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming clenched his fist in the air and a long spear was formed. He then thrust it out. The 3 spear lights were aimed at the 3 young men. Each spear ray had 7 variations, making it impossible to guard against. When the spear radiance disappeared, a hole had appeared between the 3 young men's eyebrows. So powerful! This was the last thought of the 3 young men. Then with a bang, their bodies turned into energy and dissipated. My points have actually increased by 236 points. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Originally, he had 88 points. However, after killing the 3 young men, his points suddenly became 324 points, an increase of 236 points. As expected, those who can stay until the end are all experts. Each of them has a lot of points. That's great. Lu Ming laughed. His figure flashed and he went to look for his next opponent. Not long after, Lu Ming discovered another young genius hiding in a house. Lu Ming attacked directly and killed the person in an instant. His points had become 367, and he was now in the top 2,000. Chapter 2633 Experts. Distribution 1000 Spirit City. Look, Lu Ming's ranking has risen. He's rising so quickly. His score has also soared. He's already at 367 points. Also, his ranking has already charged into the top 2,000. He's starting to exert his strength. He must have been delayed by something. I've risen again. I'm now more than 400 points. I'm ranked 1378. Some people from the chaotic astral river suddenly cried out. After all, Lu Ming had made it into the top 100 before and then stopped. However, many people in the chaotic astral river were still paying attention to Lu Ming. At that moment, Lu Ming's ranking suddenly soared and these people immediately cried out. Humph! Kong Ji and Situ Haonan also looked over. The moment they saw it, they both let out a cold humph and their expressions were extremely unhappy. It's only 1,000 or so. There's still a long way to go before the top 100. That's right. The further we go, the more experts will be left behind. Without Feng Er's talent, we'll be killed sooner or later, and our ranking will drop drastically. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan said unhappily. However, the moment Situ Haonan finished speaking, his expression changed drastically. Because in a certain area, Situ Xiao's ranking had suddenly dropped. Originally, Situ Xiao had already made it to the 300th place in that area. However, at this moment, his ranking had dropped drastically, falling to the 500th place. There could only be one reason for him to drop so many ranks all of a sudden. He had been killed, and his points had been halved. That was why he had dropped so badly. Ha ha ha, Situ Haonan, did you just say your son, Situ Xiao? You're right. I have to say, you really have a jinx's mouth. The ancestor of technique laughed heartily. He was extremely carefree. Fa Ming Yu. Situ Haonan's chest heaved up and down, and he almost vomited blood. Just now, he had mocked Lu Ming and Situ Xiao was immediately killed. It matched his words too well. It was as if he was deliberately slapping his face. This coincidence made the other forces, leaders on the side couldn't help but laugh out loud. Even Kong Ji-lien's body was twitching as he tried his best not to laugh. Situ Haonan's lips trembled in anger. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master looked on coldly. In the chaotic astral river, there are close to 1,000 major and minor powers. It's normal for them to fight and kill each other. She was also happy to see such a situation. Only when the other powers were killing each other would her Yunfeng pavilion be able to sit firmly as the overlord of the chaotic astral river. He has risen again. Lu Ming's ranking has risen again. He's so fast. The other party was overjoyed.
He cupped his fists and turned to leave, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye.
Lu Ming did not kill the other party. The other party's strength was average, and he would not have many points. Even if he killed him, he would not gain many points. I don't know where these top experts are. It seems like I can only try my luck. Lu Ming muttered. Then, he randomly chose a direction and left. Not long after, Lu Ming came to a wide street alone. Buzz! 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 All of a sudden, a group of people surrounded Lu Ming in a flash.
There were more than 20 of them.
Ha ha ha, it's you, kid. What a coincidence. What a coincidence. Now let's see how you die. One of them burst out laughing the moment he saw Lu Ming.
What a coincidence.
The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. It was actually the Tiger Men.
Moreover, the person who laughed just now was actually Hu Mao, the one who had declared that he would let all the Tiger clan kill Lu Ming.
Kid, it seems like the heavens want you to touch me. Now, kneel down and lick my shoes, and I'll consider letting you die a quick death.
Hu Mao extended a leg and said coldly.
The other Tiger Men glared at Lu Ming coldly. It seems that you have quite a lot of points on you. Then your points are mine.
Lu Ming could not be bothered with the tiger's fur and spoke indifferently.
What? What? Hu Mao and the others were stunned, thinking that they had heard wrong. What did Lu Ming say? They wanted to steal their points? Is he crazy? A mere piece of trash from the chaotic astral river actually wants to take their points. If he's not crazy, what is he? It seems that this brat is not only stupid but also blindly arrogant. How sad. Since that's the case, I'll let him die miserably and let him know the consequences of offending my Tiger Man race. Hu Mao said sinisterly.
Leave it to me.
One of the Tiger Clan's young men made a move. He waved his large hand and grabbed Lu Ming. In his opinion, Lu Ming was merely at the transformation void martial stage. Moreover, he came from a small place like the chaotic astral river. What kind of combat strength could he have?
He could easily suppress Lu Ming with a flip of his hand.
Chapter 2634 Ranking soars. Just as the tiger youth's palm was about to hit Lu Ming, Lu Ming's fingers were like a long spear, pointing out. A ray of spear light burst forth. It was extremely bright and fast. The body of the young man from the tiger tribe suddenly froze in mid-air. This was because the space between his eyebrows had been pierced by Lu Ming's spear gleam and he had died on the spot. Bang! Then, the body of the tiger youth exploded with a bang and dissipated into energy.
You! Hu Mao and the others were all shocked.
This was completely beyond their expectations. A mere transformation void martial artist from the chaotic astral river had actually killed a Heaven's Pride expert of the Tiger Clan with a single move. After the shock, it was anger. Brat, you dare to kill the people of my Tiger Clan? You're courting death. The tiger roared.
You talk too much nonsense.
Lu Ming said coldly.
He clenched his fist and a long spear was formed.
Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming could not be bothered to waste his breath and attacked directly. In an instant, a few terrifying spear lights burst out and killed the few Tiger Clan youths. Attack! Attack together.
I want him to suffer a fate worse than death.
The tiger roared. Roar! Roar! The young men of the Tiger Clan roared like tigers and their divine power condensed into all kinds of weapons that charged at Lu Ming. Good! Lu Ming let out a long howl and the long spear trembled. 7 changes appeared instantly and the spear's radiance was thrust out. Each of the spear's radiance contained 7 levels of power. These Tiger Men youths could not withstand it at all. Boom! Some of them were pierced through the glabella by the spear radiance, while others were swept by the long spear and directly split open. The 20 or so Tiger Men youths were like babies in Lu Ming's hands. They could not even withstand a single blow. Not all of these people controlled ordinary divine power. There were a few who controlled king-grade divine power. It was a pity that his understanding of the incomplete divine skill was so that it could not even withstand a single blow from Lu Ming. The Tiger Men tribe had many experts. Other than peerless geniuses like Hu Ya, there were also some other top experts. For example, Tigerbone, one of the top 3 masters in the Dongqing area, was one of them. If Lu Ming stayed here, he might collide with the Tigerbones. In the next few days, the Tigermen tribe did not appear. On the other hand, Lu Ming's cultivation attracted the attention of some other experts who wanted to kill him. However, they were all killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming's ranking had increased a little. He was close to the 200th place. For 9 consecutive days, Lu Ming had attracted more than 10 young men and they all died at his hands. Lu Ming's reputation spread like this. In the Dongqing area district, everyone placed Lu Ming on the same level as the other 3 top experts. The news of Lu Ming's battle with the Tigermen tribe spread and attracted many people to watch. There were many young experts hiding in the hidden corners of some buildings in the area. They were looking at Lu Ming from afar. They were waiting for an opportunity. If Lu Ming really fought with the Tigermen tribe and both sides were injured, they would have a chance. A person like Lu Ming must have a shocking number of points. If they could kill Lu Ming, their points would skyrocket. Many people had this thought and hid in the dark. On the 11th day, Lu Ming was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the street, meditating on the incomplete divine skill with his eyes closed. At that moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. In front of him, a figure was leaping from house to house at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Lu Ming. Buzz! 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 With a flash, more than 30 young men from the Tiger tribe appeared on the street in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming could see at a glance that one of them was Hu Mao. At that moment, Hu Mao was looking at Lu Ming with a face full of hatred. Tigerbone, it's him. It's this B.A.S.T.A.R.D. who killed more than 20 of our Tigermen and even threatened to wait here. The tiger pointed at Lu Ming and roared. Bang! In front of the tiger fur, a young man with an especially burly figure stepped out. This person was one of the top 3 experts in the Dongqing area, Tigerbone. He was also one of the top 10 heavens favorites in the Tiger clan. You are Lu Ming? You're really gutsy, daring to wait for us here? Tigerbone said coldly. Someone's giving you free points, why not wait? Lu Ming asked. Chapter 2636 Decisive Battle with Dengyu. The city they were in was extremely huge, like a small world. It was divided into 4 urban areas: north, south, east, and west. There were a few top experts in each urban area. However, there was an expert in the north, south, east, and west who was publicly acknowledged as the #1 expert. That person was Dengyu. He was the #1 expert in this city, a top genius. At least, in this city, no one could match him. He had earned his reputation by killing. And now, Dengyu had appeared. Could it be that he wanted to fight Lu Ming? Many people revealed looks of antic. 1. P. Asian. Lu Ming's abilities were also extremely shocking. Tigerbone, one of the top experts in the Dongqing area, was completely crushed by Lu Ming. They really wanted to know who was stronger, Lu Ming or Dengyu. You are very strong. I didn't expect that this city would have an expert like you. Dengyu stopped and landed on a house. He looked at Lu Ming. Dengyu. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes slightly. He had heard the human youth mention it before, and now that he saw Dengyu, he immediately thought of it. Not bad. Dengyu nodded. He looked at Lu Ming with a strong fighting spirit in his eyes. I was planning to go to other cities and challenge experts, but it seems that there's no need for that now. The battle intent in Deng Ye's eyes grew stronger as he spoke. You want to fight, that's exactly what I want. Lu Ming also revealed his fighting spirit. No, you and I have a battle, but not now. Deng Yu shook his head. Not now. Lu Ming was puzzled. To be honest, you're very strong. I can't see through you at all. I don't have the confidence to fight you. Perhaps I will die in your hands. I don't have enough points now. If I lose half of my points, I'm not sure if I can make it into the top 100. So, how about we have a battle? When the 3-month deadline is almost up. Well, fight here. How about it? To be honest, you're very strong. I can't see through you at all. I don't have the confidence to fight you. Perhaps I will die in your hands. I don't have enough points now. If I lose half of my points, I'm not sure if I can make it into the top 100. So, how about we have a battle? When the 3-month deadline is almost up. We'll fight here. How about it? Deng Yu said. All right. Lu Ming did not hesitate and nodded in agreement. He understood Deng Ye's thoughts. If he was killed by Lu Ming now, his points would be reduced by half. He was not confident that he could steadily enter the top 100. Therefore, during this period of time, he would go and obtain more points. When he had enough points, even if his points were halved, he could still firmly enter the top 100. There were a total of 36 swords, and their sword Qi soared into the sky. Fight! A long spear appeared in Lu Ming's palm. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and charged toward Deng Yu as one with his spear. Go! Deng Yu waved his hand. 36 combat swords formed a strange combination and continuously stabbed at Lu Ming. Boom! 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 Lu Ming's long spear and Deng Ye's combat sword kept colliding with each other, and the force was overflowing. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged dozens of moves. This Deng Yu is not weak. Lu Ming thought to himself. He could sense Deng Ye's overall combat strength as soon as they exchanged blows. The divine power that Deng Yu controlled was also king-grade divine power, but it was much stronger than the average king-grade divine power. Shen power of the same level also had differences in strength. Some of them were very different in power. For example, Tong Xie and Kong Long both controlled king-grade divine power. But Tong Xie's king-grade divine power was stronger than Kong Long's by a level. This Deng Yu was also the same. His king-grade divine power was not weaker than Tong Xie's, and was even stronger. Moreover, his incomplete divine skill had also reached the peak of the second stage. His battle sense was also very strong. In terms of overall combat strength, he was much stronger than Tigerbone. No wonder he could become the #1 expert in this city. Amazing, amazing, again. After exchanging dozens of moves, the fighting spirit in Deng Ye's eyes grew stronger and stronger. He waved his hands and sword light surged. 36 combat swords continuously rushed toward Lu Ming. Each attack was shockingly powerful and unpredictable. It seems like I need to increase the power of the ruler's power. Lu Ming smiled faintly. And NBSP, when he had fought with others before, he had not used all of his ruler power. What he had used had only been the power of ordinary divine power. At this moment, he had used his power of domination to unleash a power equivalent to king-grade divine power. Instantly, his combat strength increased by a notch. The spear's radiance surged and swept away Deng Ye's sword radiance. Let's end this, Lu Ming muttered. The long spear trembled and turned into a flash of spear radiance as fast as lightning. It was like a fairy from beyond the heavens, shattering the void. Whoosh! The spear radiance burst forth with 7 layers of energy, and the remaining sword radiance of Deng Yu was completely destroyed. In the next moment, the spear radiance pierced through Deng Ye's chest. Deng Ye's body stiffened in the air. Amazing, amazing. I'm completely convinced of my defeat. Deng Yu smiled. Then, his body turned into energy and disappeared with a bang. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.